So today's wish is Misha Naomi, Cadmila Felcher. So we're in the drag files. So we've got Tom Hatt has developed at this stage. He's a man of many hats. He's quite fetishy. He is exploring a variety of things and starting to begin performance art though. Just in general, starting to do a process of performance art with Lindsay Delaron and bringing my somatic therapy training in. So talk about that in a separate one. So started to do more performance art, deepen into understanding of performance art, seen Peter Morin do some incredible performances, Lindsay Delaron do some incredible performances, seen some just, amazing performance art. So deepened into my understanding, did a couple of pieces with Linz and a few other collaborators, and things started to change. So my partner of multiple years and I split in a volatile explosion in the moment, but within a couple of hours we're totally civil and ended up spending a month together, living peacefully, unpacking all the things that we needed to unpack for each other. And then we spent a couple months afterwards visiting, discussing the new relationships, life, things like that. And still just honoring what was. During that time, I was looking for a house, and I had a dog who wasn't doing very well, getting quite elderly. And I ended up moving in. I had 3 options for housing. One was cheap, too many stairs, really sketchy neighborhood. One was more expensive, not an ideal neighborhood, too far from my work, less stairs, but sketchy dog kind of thing. And then one was this middle ground, which was in an all-right neighborhood that I had lived in before, but it was obvious that the woman that I was moving in with was an alcoholic and was lying about that. So I moved in with her, and that was an interesting narrative of gutting my root wound between my mother and I. She was an embodiment of, my mother of me at 8 years old. So it was a very interesting journey. But while living with her, I heard 2 songs. I heard A Girl's Gotta Do What a Girl's Gotta Do, and then I heard Portishead's I Just Want to Be a Woman. And I got a vision for this drag number about my personal gender expression, which is that I don't want to be a man with a woman. I want to be breasts on breasts. I want to be a woman with a woman. But in society, I didn't appreciate being read as a female. So I would, be masculine in posturing, be masculine in hairstyle, masculine feathers in expression. But when I'm with a woman, because I did get offered to transition in my 20s, and I deeply considered it because I do have both in me. But I came to realize that there's a thing called two-spirited. I do have indigenous in me from a number of generations back. But I love the teachings from one elder that was at the Coxsala Music Festival, which is that even one drop, your ancestors speak to you and you know who's speaking to you. So two-spirited, I have that going on. And so when I was offered to transition, it didn't feel right because I'm not that. I'm not a man. I'm both. So I was, let's see, here we are. Then I heard these 2 songs, and then I had been plowing through a lot of my trauma, personal trauma, from childhood, all sorts of things like this. And I signed up to do drag for a showdown for a $500 contest, and I hadn't done drag all year pretty much. But I was still going to the shows, and I still wanted to do something, and so I signed up to do this, and then 10 days to it, I was like, holy fuck, I need to get something ready. Like, I've been in autopilot, I've been totally like, whoa, running on amazing, but also crazy triggered, and having to gut things, got hired at the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria, moved into Oak Bay. The roommate I was living with at the beginning of the year physically assaulted me. Like, I just had like, blah, blah, everything beautiful and bitter at the same time. And so I had been in this kind of interesting autopilot. And so I wake up one morning and realize, like, shit. So I'm looking in the man bag, and there's nothing there. It's dead. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll bring out Patricia the stripper, or maybe I'll and it's just flat. It's just dead. There's just nothing in the man bag. And I was like, fuck, what's going on here? And then I remember these 2 songs, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like, so it'll be me in drag, but then the sexy woman will come out, and then we'll like start dancing, and she'll start undressing me, and then it'll be like, it'll switch into like, I just want to be a woman, give me a reason to be a woman, that kind of thing. And so I contacted another king who also does a lot of fluidity, and I was like, hey, would you mind being a female? and doing this number with me. And they're like, yeah, let me know what's going on. I'm like, yeah, we can check that out. But then I listened to it and I realized that it's actually just me. It's a trailer of my life and my gender journey, and that was the beginning of drag medicine. And so I went to do this show at a small venue first, and I did the number, and it's like starts off with this little kind of carnival sounds, and I'm a little girl. I've got a little girl's dress on, and then I go dun, dun, and then it's like, hey little girl, you want some candy? And then I throw the brush. I stopped brushing my hair when I was a kid, and so I throw the brush away and I throw off the girl's dress, and then it starts going into a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. So I dubbed in when I was a child. I learned young that a vulva attracts pain. And I lift up my little dress and there's a blood spot on my little girl's underwear that I'm wearing. So I throw that away. I fucking get some men's underwear, and it's like a girl's gotta do. And I put up my hair under a hat and I start binding. And I'm like, things take a little pain, but allow me to explain. And I pack and then I start doing some push-ups, and I'm just really being like, girls gotta do what a girl's gotta do. Then the song changes. And it's like, give me a reason to love you, give me a reason to be a woman. And I start singing to my breasts and my vulva. And I slowly rip everything apart, and I come down. And at one point, it's like, don't you stop being a man. And so I dive for my limpy and my bow tie. But then the line says, just look outside sometimes when you can. So I slowly let it down. And and then it's just give me a reason to love you, give me a reason to be a woman. And then this new frame of mind, 1,000 flowers could bloom. And I'm singing to my vulva. And then I strip down to a pair of women's underwear, and I pick up a pink bathrobe, and I put it on. And then it finishes with, for I've been a temptress too long. So I performed that, and I had some really adverse reaction from the trans community, believing that I was transphobic, and that my message was against trans masculinity. Between that week of performances, I had a dream of a rubber bridge thing going out of the ocean that was collecting things, and there was sharks everywhere. And then a good friend of mine all of a sudden is there, and she's like, I need a shark fin. And I was like, oh, well, there's these sharks on the bottom of the ocean that are wrapped in newspaper. So if you go down there, I'm sure you'll find your shark fin. But these live sharks are all around, and so I'm watching, and I'm thinking about, like, how do I protect her? Then the next dream snaps into me looking at a little, about 8-month-old girl on an old man's lap. And he's playing with her, and everything is fine, but then he tilts her over, and he takes out his dick, and he puts her on it, and he holds her on it, and he starts jittering his leg. And the dream really focuses on this jittering leg. So I jump over the thing, and I come in, and I grab her, and I call him a fucking asshole, and I tell him he will never touch a child again. But he's sitting there, and his dick's limp, and he's just smug, because it's already been done. And there's nothing I can fucking do. It's already been done. So then the dream switches, and I'm a pioneer woman, and I'm going back to the cabin, and there's a grizzly bear. And I'm running back to the front porch, and there's a rifle, and I'm being mauled by her, and she's mauling me, and I get one shot off, and the next thing I'm standing there, and oh no, I gotta reload, and I crack it, but there's only one shot gone. So then I'm confused. If there's only one shot, why am I not just shooting again? What's going on here? And then I look out the window, and I see this man on this black and white horse with a dog behind him, and I see the bear, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta shoot her. And then I'm like, do I need to shoot her? And as I'm standing there contemplating that, he comes up and he takes the gun away from me, and he says, everything's gonna be okay now. So then when I performed it at the showdown, one of the people who was a trans man who was insulted actually bought me a beer, said something had completely changed, he didn't understand what. And I almost won the showdown. Lots of people cried. Adult men, people, everybody. People were crying. They couldn't believe. Like, they were just floored by the medicine. I was thinking, I was really rocked by that dream in between. And I realized that the jittering leg, I thought back to my stepmom. And when I asked her in my 20s, like, why is your family so weird around me? And she's like, well, don't you remember the first time you met? And I was like, huh? No. Like, she's like, well, we were at the hotel. Everybody was there. You were playing on Pape's lap, which is her father. And he must have just touched you in some way. and you freaked out and started clawing his face and screaming, and your dad just grabbed you and said, "You don't understand," and took you away. So everybody thinks you're psycho. That's why they're all weird around you, because you were 5 and you acted like a psycho to the kindest man in the family. And then I was thinking about that, and it kept on going back to the jittering leg, the jittering leg, the jittering leg in the dream, the jittering leg in this man, the jittering leg, the jittering leg. And I clued in that it was me, that I had done a soul retrieval on myself through this drag piece, and I had found a molestation that happened at 8 months. At 8 months old, I had reached up and grabbed a lantern and burnt my right hand really severely. That was because people, when they have trauma and they need pain, they need someone to know about it, they self-harm. I put that association together because when I was molested at 3 and everybody knew it, I fell both hands onto the stove and burnt both of my hands severely. So what ended up happening is my clitoris shrank. And I checked in with another medicine woman and was like, what the fuck is up with that? Is it gone? Have I not been using it enough? What's going on? And she's like, no, it was the size that it was because it was holding that trauma that no one else knew that had gone on at 8 months old when you were molested. So that's chapter 1 of drag medicine, and just some of the surreal stuff that comes through as stages of empowerment.